done to us now. Well, somebody I love is Dr. Roger Hodkinson. I look up to this man, even though he's a little bit shorter. On one knee. He has stood strong when many wouldn't. He did what doctors were supposed to do. Yeah. Let's give him a round for that one. And with a little luck, he'll give us a striptease too. Doctor, thank you very much for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Dr. Roger Hodkinson.
There we go. That's great. You can hear me at the back? Unfortunately. Before we go any further, would someone lock the doors, please? Because I don't want anyone to leave. You're a bunch of what I call normies. Pathologically normal people. You should be ashamed of yourselves from using common sense. You got your head screwed on. Well, I'm back. I'm back on the stump, and it feels good to be talking to normal people who get it. Before I go on, I think it's very important for me to recognize formally, with applause, if you don't mind, the two people that put this on, Paula and Jason. Give them a round of applause. And that doesn't count for my 20 minutes, okay? There's someone else that I want to recognize. She's going to hate this, but I'm going to do it anyway. My wife here, Nicole, who's behind that column trying to hide, she is my rock. She's been with me when the bullets are flying. And I'd like you to give her a round of applause. Now, I'm from Manchester, and we have a reputation that I don't intend to forget. We say what we mean, and we mean exactly what we say. It's sort of a fault, but I'm very proud to carry that with me. Because, just a second, an interlude. I look like a doctor, don't I? Yeah, well, I'm rather ashamed of the label, so this is the striptease that's halfway through the show. I think they throw it away, don't they? There we go. I'll keep the tie on just for continuity. That's the last joke. We're going to get down to it. Because this is bloody serious. That's number one. We're at a moment in history, ladies and gentlemen. We're living through a very important time, and it's a privilege in many respects to be alive and see how it's playing out. There's a train coming down the track, ladies and gentlemen, that's got a label on the front. It's the train to dystopia. It's coming down the track. It started off in Europe, and you've seen what's happened there. This isn't theory. It is going to happen if we don't stop the train. Democratic ideals are in peril internationally. Is that still okay, sound-wise? Democratic ideals are in peril. And there only seems to be one guy doing anything about it, Trump, down in the States. Full disclosure, I'm a Trumper, big time. Is he perfect? No. Is anyone here except me? No, he's doing a damn good job. But I do have another hero that I will be referring to today. And if you wouldn't mind, thank you. You recognize this fellow, Winston Churchill? And look what he said. This is from the middle of the war when the chips were down. No one knew which way it was going to go. Deserve victory. That is the slogan for you. You deserve victory. And you will be a central part of what happens. You see, it's been happening so slowly, we've not realized what's been going on. The stealth attack on society. We are being eaten alive by people we are paying to do it. And it's happening so slowly that everyone is accommodating to the process. If I had to put one finger on the principal reason we're in this bloody mess, that's number 2. I point the finger directly at universities. Universities are now, they are dominated by junior faculty. Senior faculty runs in fear of them. They're pretty well all socialists or closet communists. But here's the point. They teach the teachers. And the teachers teach our kids. And the kids go to university and colleges and get a second dose. Oh, it must be right. And if you contest it, your marks might drop. Because it's governed by wokeism. That's created what I call, knowledgeably, as a pathologist, a stinking moral rot. A pathologist can smell that a mile away. That's what we have to contend with. But despite the scale of it that I'll come to, nothing is being done about it. I'm going to, basically, my talk today is about the traditional principle of the carrot and the stick. We're going to talk about the stick now, the things that have happened that need never to happen again unless we stop the train. The 3 biggest hoaxes that society has ever lived through, and they're all happening simultaneously. I'm talking here about COVID and its aftermath. It ain't over, and I'll come to that. Climate change and funny money. Those are the 3 hoaxes that are going on simultaneously. And I draw a big conclusion from all of this, and that is that the Achilles heel of democracy is freedom itself. Freedom that is abused by people in ways that were never intended. And if you don't believe me, just look around, both at a personal level and from a societal perspective. Society, extreme government control that's getting worse by the day. The illegal Emergencies Act, putting people in trepidation. I was there with the truckers when that happened. Seized bank accounts, digital ID, digital currency. In China today, there is no such thing as paper money. It's all electronic. And it's coming here. And that's another form of control. 15-minute cities happening in Oxford, England, as we speak, and being actively planned for Edmonton coming shortly to a neighborhood near you. And then we have uncontrolled immigration. People that come here should be needed, not imported simply to conform to some philosophical, political ideal of Carney. And with that comes lawfare. Again, using freedom against us, using the law against us to further their ends. At the end of it all, and examples of that, Birmingham, England, Rotterdam in the Netherlands, Sharia law, places where the police just don't go. Places in France as well. Net result, a destruction of a culture. You have to be of a certain age to appreciate a culture. And I get it. Our fathers didn't die for what I just described. They would be aghast at what we've tolerated for so long. They actually died for that. They didn't just complain. They put their lives on the line. Look at the personal aspects of decay. Hedonistic behavior. You just have to look around. What does this look like? A selfie. A selfie defines current society. It's all about me. Life revolves 2 inches around my feet and society be damned. Can I go home for my joint and Netflix now? That's what it's all about for most people. Are they in for an awakening? Public debauchery, reminiscent of the days before the fall of Rome, Berlin before the Second World War. Public debauchery is the final stage of societal decay. Example, transvestites telling stories in children's libraries. Oh, but that's okay. We've got to be tolerant. It's what I call the tyranny of the minorities. Minorities are welcome. Full disclosure, my business partner is Sri Lankan. There isn't a shred of racism in my body. But we can't let them change our culture. We are what we are. Don't try and change it. As a reaction to all of that, we've accommodated good Canadian citizens. Little by little, we've given up little bit of freedom here, a little bit of freedom there, all dressed up as convenience. And we're government. We're here to support you. Yes, really. So I could say, as an immigrant physician, quite confidently, that I have diagnosed a unique medical disorder that only exists in Canada, and it's called the terminal niceness syndrome. We're ripe for the picking. And so that's how it evolved. Underpinning all of this, of course, are the 2 isms that we're all too familiar with, wokeism and globalism. So let's get down to one of the first hoaxes, COVID. COVID. It wasn't doctors, it wasn't politicians, it wasn't religious leaders. It was truckers who put their standard in the ground and said, no. That was the start of it. Real men and women. I was there with them at Atchison on the tarmac when they headed off, and then in Ottawa. We have so much to be thankful for what they did, because it started an international movement towards freedom that initially morphed into the Netherlands and then elsewhere. But COVID itself, let me go on record. I am not an anti-vaxxer, not at all. I took them all before COVID, but never again, for all kinds of reasons that I can mention. But I do not believe that what we experienced was an intentional genocide, for all kinds of reasons that I can go into privately later if you want to ask me. No, I do believe it was an unintentional release from a lab that had terrible biosafety. It was built by the French. They knew all about it. But you would expect, demand, that a Department of Defense, particularly in the States, would have the manual on the shelf ready to go should there ever be a real bioterrorism attack. So it was released, and the DoD said, now, let's do it. Let's trial run, just in case the real one happens. And that's, unfortunately, the way it played out. It was a DoD campaign, nothing to do with the politicians. It was purely military. Fauci was the front-end stooge. Always beware of a Lilliputian with all the money and all the power and no success in life. Those are very dangerous people. But it wasn't him. It was the scarf lady behind him, Colonel Deborah Birx, ex-Army. She orchestrated the whole damn thing. Number 3. As a result, you can argue about the numbers. The rough estimate that seems to be becoming agreed is that 36 million people died after being injected with this poison. I'm talking million here. Let's say I'm off by 100%. It's still way, way more than the number of people that die after the introduction of a drug that's then withdrawn from the market. 36 million people? Translate that for Alberta. 4,000 to 8,000 people. Many of you might well have known someone who did have a horrible consequence from these injections. Those are not zeros, ladies and gentlemen. Each one of those people was as close to someone as you are to your children. I'd like to call them martyrs. They died to reveal the rot that we were previously unaware of. What happened is the declaration of the enemy. You cannot fight an invisible enemy. The enemy was winning, hands down. The institutional corruption involved every single aspect of society, organized society. Medicine, academia, politics, the courts, the mainstream media, except alternative media. Thank you, Jason. And religious leaders. None of them stood up for you, particularly the religious leaders. They deserted their flock, except for the non-denominational churches, of which there was merely a handful. Artur Pawlowski and people like that. So to close on the COVID hoax side of things, let me just briefly review 3 things that I think are very, very important. The Henry Ford Foundation in Detroit, an esteemed institution, blue chip, instituted a study about 10 years ago to show, they hoped, that vaccinated children, before COVID, with the US vaccination schedule, which is now thankfully radically changed, to show that vaccinated children were healthier than unvaccinated children. What they found was exactly the opposite. 57% of vaccinated children had a chronic disease of some sort, whereas unvaccinated children had only 17% of them had a chronic illness. That report, being so opposite to what was expected, was buried. And it only came to light very recently when Aaron Suri, a famous US attorney, brought it to light with congressional testimony. What a fantastic business model it is to make you sick with one shot and then sell you drugs to mitigate, not to cure, those chronic diseases lifelong. What a brilliant strategy that is, double dipping to make even more money. Second important paper, very important, authored by McCullough and Nick Hulscher, good friends of mine, about the determinants of autism, showing from the most massive review of all the literature that the biggest determinant of autism, which as you know is taking off logarithmically, the biggest determinant of autism is the childhood vaccination schedule. That was reinforced 2 weeks later when the CDC recognized it had to change its website that used to say, vaccines do not cause autism. That statement was taken down and replaced by something that's much more mealy-mouthed. The last thing I want to tell you about medically with regard to COVID is what's coming down the pipe. Be prepared for this. You think everything else is bad enough? Nowhere close. Dr. David Speaker, another good friend of mine, a molecular biologist in Guelph, is about to show, and we hope he fails, that reverse transcription in a living person, reverse transcription of the mRNA in the vax into permanent installation of DNA in your nucleus, he is intending to determine if that happens, using spermatozoa semen as the study model. If he shows that, and if the second experiment is positive, and that will be to look at the DNA of an unvaxxed baby of two vaxxed parents. Translation: transgenerational change in humanity, forever and ever and ever, amen. For no reason other than a bad seasonal flu, and this has been injected into 70% of the world's population. You think that's bad enough? We don't, if it's shown to be the case, and let's hope he fails. If that's not bad enough, we don't know what that's going to do. What we do know is, if you monkey around with perfection, which is human DNA, the outcome is not going to be positive. And it could accelerate mortality and drop fertility and result in what I would call, 10, 20 years from now, the big kill. The genocide that was being talked about was not the intentional release. It's what could happen 10, 20 years from now. Hoax number 2, climate change. I call the things that are going on solutions in search of a problem. It's really as simple as that, because the cause is in plain sight. You just have to use your eyes and look out of the window. During the day, what do you see? Clouds and the sun. And at night, what do you see? The stars. Let me translate. The sun sends an erratic solar storm, a magnetic storm towards the Earth all the time, totally unpredictable. And supernovae that have exploded billions of years ago are constantly showering the Earth with cosmic rays. And in the stratosphere, the interaction of the solar wind from the sun and the cosmic rays create atomic nuclei upon which condensation occurs with water vapor to create what we call clouds. More clouds, colder. Fewer clouds, warmer. It's really as simple as that. And at night, of course, as I said, you see the stars, and that's where the cosmic rays come from. The big point is that these are two independent variables. So guess what? Climate changes. Can you predict the clouds from one day to the next? Or maybe 1 month to the next? No, you can't. There's so many ways of influencing the global climate. And remember, carbon dioxide is not that we produce, is not the problem. If it is a problem contributing, it's a very small proportion. Carbon dioxide is plant food. Without it, we die. So rather than Trump's famous adage of drill, baby, drill, in my opinion, it should be burn, baby, burn. Make more of it. It's good stuff. It's causing an increased yield in Indian crop production. It's causing the greening around the perimeter of the Sahara Desert. It's altogether good stuff, like Patrick Moore, one of the founders of Greenpeace, famously said. Carbon dioxide is not a poison, it's our savior. And if we try to get rid of it, we go too. And one final example of the consequences of climate change from the UK. Given the increasingly poor economy and fewer money in the genes of old age pensioners, and a tripling of heating costs, they are forced to decide, which do you want, heat or eat? Is that what this man stood up for and our fathers died for? In a developed democracy, to treat our seniors that way? I don't think so. And then finally, as I said, 15-minute sitters. So let's move on to hoax number 3, magic money, the biggest of them all. We have uncontrolled spending while we're bankrupt. And that's been going on for decades. How many people in this room are aware that the average family spend 2 days of every week working for government for their entire life to be squandered? No, government is what's called a Ponzi scheme. It's what Bernie Madoff went to jail for. A Ponzi scheme, simply put, is when you borrow money to pay the interest on the money you borrowed. That's obviously unsustainable, and it was summarized famously by an American economist called Howard Stein, who said, quote, "If something can't go on forever, it will stop." And it will stop on a Friday afternoon when the bank's closed, and you'll be the last to know about it. So having gone through what you might call the stick, because this is happening or is going to happen, that train to dystopia that we definitely don't want our children to have to experience. Exactly what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue whining or act? I've been around this block for 5 years now, and I'm fed up with whining. It's got us nowhere. And it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The only solution is obviously an independent Republic of Alberta, and I'm passionate about it. Okay, for a couple more minutes? He's the boss. I'm not sure if any of you follow a good friend of mine. He's got a worse mouth than me, Paul Alexander in the States. Do any of you follow Paul Alexander? Right on. He was in Ottawa too. He said famously and euphemistically, full disclosure, I'm not advocating violence of any kind, okay? Passive resistance, yes, but no violence, please. He said, quote, "We got to burn the institutions down to the studs. That is the only solution, radical change in order to get where we want to. Because when we succeed, Alberta, yes, will be prosperous and free. But that's not really the big prize. The big prize is that Alberta could redefine democratic ideals for the rest of the world because we're small enough to change direction. And that to me is totally intoxicating, to think that what started there at Atchison could create that incredible history for this land that we will start calling the country of Alberta. So, yes, we'll win the petition. I'm obviously talking to the choir here. But how do we win the referendum, which is everyone else? That's a very different matter. In my opinion, the enemy is not Danielle Smith or Carney or even the Supreme Court, because the whole essence of the independent country of Alberta and its prosperity is otherwise known as oil. If big oil thinks we can't pull it off, they will undermine the activity in stealthy ways, dark money, to make damn sure it doesn't happen, because they'll work with a dictator anywhere. They want certainty, not maybe. So it's up to us to have a resounding victory in the referendum so that big oil comes on side. And when big oil's on side, they'll be on our side when whoever is in charge is negotiating with Ottawa. A final point about the distinction between polling and voting. You've seen the numbers, 30% in favor of separation, whatever that number is, it varies a bit. Don't be deceived. Don't be dismayed. Because a poll is a result of a phone call or response to something on the internet in the comfort of your chair. Quite different from getting in a car, angry than hell, and going to a voting booth. And I put it to you that anger will drive success in this campaign, whereas those voting for no will be comfortable at home, not really wanting to get out, quite happy with the kumbaya of status quo. They will not be angry. They may be upset, but they won't be angry. There's one thing that I'd like to focus on when it comes to the essence of the pitch. In my opinion, it's not prosperity, it's not freedom, it's prosperity. The average person, in my opinion, having been around this block for 5 years, the average person, not you lot, the average person really doesn't give a damn about freedom. They'll trade it off for a trinket, convenience. That's what they've done for years. It's all about the money. It's always been about the money, and it's now about the money. But you've got to translate prosperity away, you've got to translate it, not a generic term that sounds fine and dandy, but you've got to personalize it. You've got to target a demographic that's going to respond to the need for them to have more money in their genes. And I put it to you that one demographic that's been notoriously ignored over the years by politicians is the working mother. The working mother who, cast your mind back, before the Second World War, most women didn't work. Most women were the esteemed pillar of society. They didn't just make the babies, they nurtured the babies. They were there when the kids came home from school. They taught ethics and morals and took them to church. Not that we didn't do anything. But in years gone by, we drove chariots and defended the village. We don't do that anymore. Our job is simply to put this on the table. Women do the rest. And they're nowhere near recognized for what they do. So in the future, in this referendum campaign, I would like the pitch be to single mothers and working mothers working for minimum wage because their partner is earning enough to get by without them working. And the pitch to them would be, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to work at the cashier desk at Walmart? Wouldn't you prefer to be the esteemed pillar of the family and respected for that? I think that's a winning formula for the referendum. And there's one negative about the voting and the pitch. I don't think we should have religion, despite being a religious person. I don't believe we should have religion and abortion, sadly, on the table. Because every vote matters, and if we turn off people who don't like the idea of religion being part of society and have strong views on abortion, if we insist on that, we will turn enough people off to lose. Every single vote is going to be critical. So I'm going to finish, Jason. He's my boss. I'm going to finish by saying these things. Tinkering will not work. If I could use a medical metaphor here, we have to burst the pustule and make sure it doesn't hit you in the eye. We've got to be radical and non-violent in order to get what we want. No more messing around. That train to dystopia is real. And it may not be affecting us immediately, but it'll certainly affect our kids. So I refer back to the carrot and stick. We talked about the stick. That's definite. It's coming, and it's huge. Unless we stop it. Compare that risk in the risk-benefit analysis with the future prosperity and freedom of the independent country called Alberta. I put the risk down here. Yes, there is risk, obviously. The risk is manageable, including CPP. The risk is manageable. The risk we're not sure about, but it's nowhere close to that risk. Don't get lost in the weeds in this whole argument with arcane constitutional issues and so on and so on. It's about that versus that. It's a very, very simple equation which you're going to be asked to vote on. And to succeed, I would draw a religious analogy. Jesus did not spread Christianity. It was his disciples that did it. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the disciples that's going to win this referendum by leaving here angrier than you came in, with information that you can repeat with sound bites to people that are on the fence, and stay angry until we've won this very, very important battle. Corning Trump, we've got to fight, because losing is not an option. We're in this to win. Thank you.